Everything is getting more expensive, and it has almost nothing to do with the reasons you have been handed. The money in your pocket is losing value a little more every year on a schedule that somebody set on purpose and you were never told it was happening. Your rent, your groceries, the coffee you grab without thinking about it, the paycheck that somehow never stretches the way it did 5 years ago. That is not bad luck. It is not greedy companies having one greedy year. None of it is the pandemic. And it is not the man who runs the gas station down your street. But the real explanation is the one thing you were never walked through. Prices are not going up. The value of your money is going down. Those two sentences feel identical from where you are standing, and they are not. And the difference between them is everything. Something has been draining your money from underneath you your entire adult life. Once you can see the machine that does it, your own bank balance is going to look different for good. So start with the money itself, because you have probably never once been asked what a dollar even is. A dollar is not wealth. It is a claim on wealth. Think about the coat check at a crowded restaurant. You hand over your coat. You get a small paper ticket, and that ticket is not warm and cannot be worn and is worth nothing on its own. It is a promise that somewhere in the back there is a real coat waiting for you. The coats are the real thing. The tickets are only claims on the coats. Your money works exactly like that ticket. The dollars in your account are claims on the real stuff the economy makes. The food and the housing and the hours of other people's work. That ticket only holds its power because everyone down the line agrees to keep accepting it. You cannot eat a dollar. You trust it because the next person trusts it. Now imagine the clerk gets loose with the tickets and hands out twice as many while the same number of coats hang in the back. Every ticket in the room, including the one in your hand, is now a claim on half a coat. Nobody stole your coat. Nobody reached into your pocket. Your ticket just became worth less because the tickets multiplied and the coats did not. That is inflation with every complicated word peeled off it. It is what happens when the claims on stuff grow faster than the stuff, and you can watch the same thing from the other direction at an auction. Put 10 people in a room with $100 each and one painting and it sells for around $100. Now hand every one of them $1,000 and run the sale again. Same painting, same 10 people. But it sells for closer to $1,000 because the extra money has nowhere to go except up into the price. That floating price tag is what you're staring at in the store. The word itself even admits what is going on. Inflation means swelling, the way a balloon swells when you blow into it. And the thing being blown up is the pile of tickets, never the pile of coats. Which leaves one obvious question hanging in the air. If handing out more tickets makes everyone's ticket worth less, including the people running the coat check, then who in their right mind would choose to do that on purpose? And how much are they choosing to do? Here is where it stops being an accident and starts being a policy. The people who control how much money exists, the central banks, do not aim for zero. They are not trying to keep your ticket worth exactly one coat. They aim on purpose, year after year, to make your money lose about 2% of its value. 2 out of every $100 you are holding is meant to melt away over the next 12 months, and again the year after that, without end. And they do it deliberately, for a reason that sounds almost caring, until you follow it all the way down. They are terrified of the opposite of inflation, of money that gains value while it sits still, because if your dollar were more next year than today, you would hold on to it, and so would everyone else, and an economy where nobody spends anything seizes up, like an engine run without oil. So they choose a slow, permanent leak instead. They would rather your money bleed a little every year than risk it ever growing stronger in your hands. And there is a second reason they are comfortable with the leak. One they say out loud far less often. A government that owes enormous debts is also the largest borrower in the room, and a borrower loves inflation because it lets you pay tomorrow's lenders back with money worth less than what you first borrowed. The same leak that drains your savings is the leak that shrinks their debt. You are sitting on the paying side of that trade every single year, and you never once signed up for it. Leave your savings in an ordinary account and you have essentially drilled a small hole in the bottom of the bucket, sized to drain $1 out of every 50 every year, forever by design, and it means something colder for your paycheck. If your money is set to lose 2%, then a 2% raise is not a raise at all. It is the hole in the bucket being patched, and nothing more. You have to climb faster than the leak just to stay exactly where you are. Now here is the part that should make your jaw tighten. That 2% number, the one that governs how fast your life savings drains, was never calculated. There was no mountain of research underneath it. It came from an offhand line in a television interview. In 1988, the finance minister of New Zealand was pressed on live television about whether he was happy with inflation, and he answered, more or less off the top of his head, that he would like it down around 0 to 1%. There was no target at all before he said it out loud. The central bank there suddenly stuck with a number their own minister had blurted onto the air, tacked on a small cushion for the fact that inflation is hard to measure exactly, rounded it off, and landed near 2%. Other countries watched New Zealand strangle its runaway inflation and copied the figure without much argument. Canada took it. The United States made it official in 2012, so the rate at which your paycheck rots inside your account, the invisible tax on every dollar you have ever managed to save, traces back to one man guessing on a talk show, and the math that guest sets loose on you is merciless. At 2% a year, in roughly 35 years, your money buys half of what it buys today. The dollar you tuck away now is a 50-cent piece by the time you are old enough to need it, and nobody sat you down in school to walk you through that. But if they are only shrinking your money by 2%, a number small enough to sound almost harmless, then why does it never once feel like 2% when you are standing at the checkout counter? Because the 2% you hear quoted on the news is not measured the way you would measure it. You would track what your own life costs month to month. The official figure is built from a giant imaginary shopping cart, tens of thousands of specific products spread across more than 200 categories, priced over and over again. That sounds fair enough, until you find the rule buried inside the cart. When one thing in it gets too expensive, the people building the number assume you will give up and switch to the cheaper option, so they swap it out for you. Steak climb, so the cart trades your steak for chicken and reports that dinner did not cost more. You did not eat the same dinner. You got downgraded, and your downgrade got written down as steady prices. Then the companies filling your cupboards run the same play from the other side. The cereal box costs what it did last year, but there is less cereal inside it. The chip bag looks the same and is half air. Your money buys less while the sticker never moves, so a real slice of your rising cost of living hides inside packaging you never thought to put on a scale. Stack all of it together, and the number that scrolls across the bottom of the news is, by its own design, lower than the number your wallet feels. The distance between the two is why you keep hearing that inflation is under control, while your own grocery run keeps getting more painful, and you are not imagining it, and you are not bad with money. The ruler is shorter than your life. Over one recent 20-year stretch, the standard version of the official measure climbed about 55%, while a stricter version that assumes even more of this trading down rose only about 46%. That gap is not a rounding error. That gap is years of your purchasing power, living in the empty space between the way they measure inflation and the way you survive it. So the number is understated, and the understated is built into the tool, and your money is leaking faster than the headline will ever admit. That is already plenty to be angry about. But it is not the part that should worry you most. Because being measured wrong is one thing. Being on the wrong end of where the new money lands is a different thing. And it is the piece almost nobody understands. Here is the part almost nobody understands, and it is the reason you can work harder, earn more on paper than you ever have, and still feel like you are sliding backward down a hill. Inflation is not a flat tax that lands on everyone in the room at the same instant. New money does not appear in every bank account at once, the way rain falls evenly across a field. It enters at a few specific taps, and from those taps it flows outward like water shoved down a long pipe. The banks sit at the tap. The government sits at the tap. Anyone who already owns the assets, the stocks, and the property that the fresh money reaches first on its way out is standing right beside the tap. And you, earning a wage, spending most of it, saving whatever is left over, you are down at the far end of the pipe. Follow the water, and the trick shows itself. Whoever stands at the tap fills their glass while the water is still clear and cheap, spending brand new money at yesterday's prices before the rest of the world even knows more money exists. Picture the person beside the tap buying a house with that cheap early money. By the time that same wave of money has traveled all the way down to your end, it has pushed the price of that house and nearly everything else higher along the entire route. Your raise finally lands, and the house that person already bought has doubled. Your raise is real on the payslip and a pay cut at the checkout on the same afternoon. This is why you keep seeing the stock market and home prices scream to record highs in the exact same years your wages sit flat and the news still calls it a strong economy. The tap end is filling up while your end runs dry, and both are happening under the same word. If you rent, it lands on you twice, because you are handing a larger check every year to someone whose property the cheap early money already inflated for them. You get the flood of higher prices first, and the trickle of new money last, if it ever reaches you at all. An economist named Richard Cantillon worked this out almost 300 years ago, before central banks even existed, and it has been true every single day since. The people closest to the money get richer before prices climb. The people furthest from it get poorer after prices climb. Same inflation, opposite lives. Which is why the honest word for inflation is not a tax and not bad weather. It is a transfer. It moves buying power from the people at the end of the pipe toward the people at the tap, with no vote, no headline, and no single moment where you can feel your wealth being lifted out of your hands. You just wake up one year and realize that working hard has stopped working the way it always used to. And you cannot point at the thief, because there was no thief. There was a tap and a pipe, and you were standing at the wrong end of it all along. So circle all the way back to the checkout, to that total climbing while you stand there wondering why. The answer was never sitting on the shelf. It was in the money itself, and in where you happen to be standing at the moment new money arrives. If you carry one sentence out of all of this, make it this one. Inflation is not the price of things going up. It is the slow, deliberate transfer of your money toward people standing closer to it than you are. And that is the part with no easy exit, because you cannot vote it away, and you cannot save your way out of it while your savings sit inside a currency built to leak. Which means the real question was never how to stop inflation. You cannot, and anyone selling you a clever trick to beat it is usually selling you something. The question is where you are standing in that pipe, and whether the place you have parked your entire life's work sits close to the tap or drains out at the far end. Some things hold their value when money is designed to lose it, and some things bleed out right alongside the dollar, and almost nobody can tell you which is which before it is too late to matter. That is the thing you have to understand next, and it is exactly where this goes. So stay with me, and I will show you which side of that pipe your money is sitting on.